Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. I thought I would sit down and do a video for you guys and gals first, but let me get a sip of my water, get my beautiful radio voice going, and let's talk about this. You know, I had someone ask me in the comments, they're like, you know, it looks like on your bench press, when you're benching, you can see at the bottom on your heavy bench sets, the bar is maybe an inch closer, lower down on one side than the other. You can tell because I have the safety pin set on my bench really close to my full range of motion. So on one of them, you know, the bar is about this far above it, it's about that far above it on the other. They're like, you know, my bench does this too. Should I be concerned with it? Should we be worried about muscle imbalances? And here's the thing that people forget. When they start talking about good form and muscle balance and all of that, what you have to remember is ask yourself a couple questions, because I'm going to get to asymmetry. Are you lifting that hoping to have a perfectly balanced physique, right? Are you wanting your left and right bicep to be within a 1/10 or a 20th of an inch of each other? Are you wanting everything perfectly symmetrical? Are you trying to maximize strength on it? What are you trying to do here? Are you just trying to lift good and minimize injuries? And what you have to remember, humans are not symmetrical. Our arms are not the same length, okay? Left arm and your right arm are not the same length on a human. They're not. For 99% of the population, rare statistical outliers have perfect symmetry. Your legs are not the exact same length. Now, if there's an inch difference between either one, this is a problem. But it's still going to be fractions of an inch. It might be a ½ inch difference. You think that's going to affect your form? How about your hip sockets? Do you know the angle of your hip socket can vary easily 5 to 10 degrees on each side? Your bone structure, your skeleton. Oh. So does that mean a perfectly balanced squat? Could your toe angle be a slight difference for you to get proper muscle movement? Is it possible because of that slight imbalance there may be some mild lateral shifting when you're going heavy? Of course. Your shoulder joints have slightly different angles in pretty much everybody. See where we're going with this? So if you're benching, a perfect balance might not look perfect balance. Your ranges of motion might be a little bit different, because what if your arms, so let's say your pecs are stretched at the same length, but one of your arms is ½ an inch longer than the other. Would you expect at the bottom for one side to be ½ an inch lower than the other? Of course it will. Would you expect with dumbbells that one side might be in a little bit more than the other when we're balanced? Of course it will. So there kind of throws out the whole idea that, if we just use a dumbbell, it'll perfectly balance left to right muscle imbalances. No, it won't. Because a barbell does the same thing a dumbbell does. In fact, I would argue a dumbbell on a press is more likely to create an imbalance. Obviously. Why? You're still going to shift it to favor the stronger side, but it's going to destabilize more easily. A barbell, most of the weight is on the outside. Keep that in mind when you're benching. Say you got 225 on the bar. You do know there's only about 20 pounds or less between your hands, right in the middle. The outside of your hands is way more of the weight. It's over 90% of the weight. Do you really think the left and right are getting the same work? But at least you're locked into a bit of a fixed plane, right? With the dumbbell, this sort of stuff happens easier. Happens way easier. Point we could make on that, though, there could be advantages to that instability on the dumbbell too, chasing overall muscle balance. If your goal is to isolate a muscle, not so much. If your goal is to make sure multiple muscles grow, there may actually be an advantage of that. I've heard Alex Viada point out stuff on that. But back over to the point. So people are like, well, I'm trying to fix this, or I'm going to fix the muscle imbalance being created on the left or right that's been created by fairly balanced training. So if your training looks balanced, you might have a mild muscle imbalance from it, you know. And if you start trying to correct that to correct the weak side or whatever, is that necessarily going to help reduce injuries? Or could it start biasing all sorts of stuff? Because a lot of times if it looks perfectly even, like so let's say for strength purposes, when it looks perfectly even, it may be building muscles imbalanced. If we're compensating a little bit, sometimes it might be balancing the muscles back out. But here's the thing. If your goal is symmetry of the muscles, your skeleton isn't symmetrical. There's a decent chance, as long as you're just trying to have good form and you're taking them to failure and you're not letting one side favor the weight too much, okay? As long as it's your skeleton's natural asymmetry causing it, you probably aren't having any real muscle imbalance from it, at least not enough that anyone's going to see, right? No one's going to notice a minor amount. But again, keeping in mind, an imbalanced skeleton, if your movement patterns appropriately match the skeletal imbalance or possibly stimulating the muscles evenly, you may end up having a more balanced physique if it's actually your skeleton causing those slight changes in angles. Like maybe your bench might be a little off this direction. You know, maybe one side dips a little lower than the other. But is it your skeleton causing it? One arm longer than the other causing it? You might end up with really balanced pecs left to right. You might end up with really balanced delts left to right. Okay? So that's what you have to think about. People worry about certain things with form without thinking through, is it my physiology causing it? And if it's your structural physiology causing these slight variations in your technique, should you be worried about it? Should you be trying to force a technique that loads your skeleton uneven because someone else told you, oh, you know, it's got to be perfectly balanced. You got to try to really focus on that. Now you're reducing load trying to focus on it. You're reducing stimulus. And you may not be doing yourself any favors. You may be forcing yourself into an unnatural position that might not be good for your physiology, that might cause more injuries. So when we're thinking these things, I think people over obsess with some of that. Like good form is good form, okay? Are you tight? Are you in control? Are you doing full ranges of motion? Are you controlling the weight? Are you not loading anything in an unsafe direction? Then you got good form. Your form is pretty well covered as far as overall muscle growth, injury prevention, things like that. If you're still worrying about a little bit of side shifting or tipping, as long as it's consistent, but it's your skeleton causing it, I don't think that's a major concern unless it's excessive. Right? And if you're worried it may be excessive, you can go get testing done. You can use force plates. There's machines you can use to test your different sides. A dumbbell is not always going to be a good test of the two sides, by the way, if you're really that concerned with it. But for most people, it really shouldn't be a concern. You start worrying about that sort of minutia when you're trying to become a professional bodybuilder and make your living at it. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.